Hi there, it's Claire here from Clear Physiotherapy, just coming to you on our regular Tuesday 12 p.m. session for any questions that you might have about injury management or whether physio is right for you, or particular rehab questions or anything like that. So if you do have any questions, just type them in on the comments below the video, and I'm more than happy to answer those as we go. So what I thought I'd cover today, just while I'm waiting for people to jump on and post those questions, is a question I get asked a lot. So the difference between, I suppose, the reason why you would stretch as opposed to doing something like a foam roller or a massage ball or something like that. So there's different types of inflexibility. So I suppose we'll start there. And I suppose if you understand that, then you'll hopefully understand why you would use stretching over a foam roller, for instance. So there's a muscle length issue, okay? So if you, say, currently sitting, as I am, and you spend the majority of your day sitting, then it's likely that you've got some muscles that are tight. They could be things like your hamstrings, they could be, say, hip flexors, chest muscles, because we're sitting in that hunched over position, and we're also sitting in that hip flexed position. So if you've got those tight muscles that are in that shortened position for long periods during the day, then what you might find is that those muscles actually get shorter. And so that's a muscle length issue. So just make sure, guys, when you jump on, make sure to say hello so I know who's on and who's watching. Then you've got myofascial tightness. So that's when you get things, you might have heard of things called trigger points. So you get those, hi Rachel, you get those points in the muscle that are tight. So they're actually, if you think about the actual length of the muscle is the same as it would have been in a normal state, but there's sections of that muscle that are compressed and that are tight, and they'll feel like lumps or taut, tight bands. Hi Josh. And then you'll get pain and sometimes even referral from those points. So you may not actually feel the tightness on that point, you may feel that tightness away from that site. So most common is tightness in the back of the shoulder, and that can actually give you pain all the way down your arm. So some people think there's something wrong with their neck and in the nerves of their neck, but in actual fact it's just a tight muscle in your shoulder that just needs some love. And once you give it some love, all of that arm pain goes away. So that's pretty cool, going from something that seems like a pretty serious injury to something that just needs some love, really. All right. So there's those differences. So there's actual shortening of the muscle and there's shortening of segments of that muscle. Okay. So why would we use stretching as opposed to sort of a myofascial release technique, like using something like foam roller, or if you're really a bit sadistic, into a rumble roller, or for other areas you might use some kind of massage ball, so smooth or spiky. Sometimes it comes down to personal preference. There's some injuries that respond better to the spiky ball, there's some injuries that respond better to the smooth ball, but it goes on a needs basis. Sometimes it comes down to just comfort and what you prefer. I personally wouldn't use that on the sole of my foot. I use that one, but for say my back or my shoulder, I just find that's not as effective, and the spiky ball works better. So it's just a case of sort of trying them, and I've got them here. So if you wanted to kind of try them out on a particular injury, you can do that, and it's almost like a try before you buy. Try it out and see which one you think's more effective, and then go. There's also different hardnesses as well. So there's some spiky balls that are quite soft with really spiky spikes. These are a lot more rounded, but the ball's quite hard as well. There's also, you can go from, if you're really tight and really sore, You can go from almost like a stress ball, like a foam ball, to tennis ball, something like that. Like that's quite hard. It's really, really hard to compress to say a lacrosse ball. So there's lots and lots of different options in terms of that myofascial tightness. So how do we know which one you need? Okay. So myofascially tight muscles can be also short as well. But if you have relatively decent flexibility, you're not, you wouldn't be described as inflexible, but you are feeling tightness through specific muscles when you either do certain movements, you have referral of pain away from where you feel tight, all of those kind of issues, that lends itself to being more myofascial tightness. So I would be more likely to jump on a foam roller, jump on a massage ball and use those instead of actually doing stretching. Also, what you can do is if you feel like you are a little bit inflexible and you do have some pain, you can do some stretching. But if you don't feel like that stretching is actually doing anything for that tightness that you're feeling or for that referred pain that you're feeling, then likely that you actually need to do some myofascial release. So again, foam roller, massage ball, something like that. So that I think it was Einstein that said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So if what you're doing isn't working, try something else. And it might be as simple as initially testing it, grabbing a tennis ball out of your sports equipment in the shed, jump up against the wall or on the floor and just roll around on that and see if that actually gives you more flexibility. And that's a nice little way to sort of test it out and see if it works. Then what we can do is we can actually look at a more specific program. So we can look at getting specific mobility drills that you can do for the specific tight muscles that you've got, and that may be a combination of stretching and using myofascial release as well. So looking at those kinds of things. Then if that doesn't work, there's always other things that we can do in clinic. So looking at doing things like dry needling. So I know that probably might scare some people, thinking about putting needles into skin. It's a sharp thing going through your skin. You work it out whether that's going to be sore or not, but it's a very, very short-lived soreness. And then the relief that people get from that is by far outweighs that initial discomfort that they get. If you're scared of needles, then that's okay. We can work slowly through that. I've had people who are absolutely terrified of needles still have dry needling and see the effect that they get, and they actually ask for it when they come in. So it's always worth trying if those at-home treatments aren't working, to just try something a little bit different. So the other thing I just wanted to quickly cover off as well is looking at the mistakes that we make with stretching. So one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make with stretching is stretching muscles that aren't actually tight. Now that might seem a little bit crazy. Yeah, well, it feels tight, it must be tight, I'm going to stretch it. So like I said before, if you've got myofascial tightness, stretching and increasing that muscle length is not necessarily going to help you with that tightness, okay? The other thing that can be tight when you're stretching is structures like nerves. And nerves inherently don't like to be stretched. They actually get quite grumpy, and the way nerves tell us that we're grumpy is to give us pain. And it might be pain immediately. It might be pain that starts 24, 48, even 72 hours after you've done that bout of stretching, that you start getting this weird random pain that you've never had before that's vaguely in the area that you've been stretching. And that's just showing that you've irritated your nerve. So the best thing to do, going back to what I said before, is if you're finding that your stretching is not actually helping increase your flexibility, either short-term or long-term, then you need to change what you're doing, okay? And the only way that you can really tell, without going through every single test that we can possibly do, is to actually have that assessed. So to have that assessed by a health professional to see, is that tightness muscle? So muscle related, so whether that be muscle length or myofascial tightness, or is it nerve related, or is it something else entirely? So are you getting pain, say in your hamstring that's actually being referred from your back, and doing things to your hamstring are not working because the pain is actually not, the source of the pain is actually not in your hamstring, it's actually coming from your back. And there's lots of examples of that, you know, pain in your wrist that's being created by an issue in your shoulder, pain in your elbow that's actually coming from your neck. There's lots and lots of examples of pain that's not at the source of the pain, and that's where your at-home treatment may not be working. So if you've got any questions in regards to that, so whether they be sort of specific questions, feel free to just drop me a PM if you've got those grumbly issues that just don't seem to be going away, and that you know, you've been doing X, Y, and Z and it's not working. It may actually be because you need to do A, B, and C. So it might just be worth having a quick chat about that. Either that, or, you know, feel free. I'm not sure whether you know or not, but we've got online bookings, so you can just go to clearphysiotherapy.com.au. You can either book an initial assessment there if you're pretty sure that physio is going to be something that's going to be helpful, or the alternative is we do have a free 10-minute quick assessment, which you can also book online as well. So you just go through Clear Physiotherapy, book online, and just select the free pre-assessment. What we can do from that as well is, if I do have time straight after that appointment, after we've done that quick pre-assessment and actually saying, is physio going to be effective for you, then we can actually go on and do that initial assessment. If we don't have time, we can just book that initial assessment at another time. So it's kind of a no risk assessment. You can come in, have a chat, we can do a quick assessment, and then see if we can actually come up with a plan that we think is going to help. So that is it from me today. I think I've banged on for long enough. So if no one's got any questions, I will sign off for today. I'll be back next Tuesday at 12 o'clock to answer any of your questions. So again, feel free to PM me any questions, or comment on the video below if you're not watching this live, and I'll cover off on those questions next week. So that is all. I will see you all next week. Have a great week. Enjoy the sun that's out there if you're in Melbourne today, and I'll see you all next week. Bye.